When we were 6 years old, the monsters who took us made a game of our survival. They told us one would be the voice, and the other would be the prop, a mute beggar to kneel on the city sidewalks and bleed sympathy from strangers. I dropped to the concrete, sobbing, begging them, please don't hurt him. Let me do it. I'll beg. I'll bring back so much money, I promise. In the end, it was acid. It burned a fiery, agonizing trail down my throat, and from that day on, my voice was nothing but a graveyard of sound. The day the police finally pulled us from that dark basement, Cole held me, his tears soaked into my collarbone, hot and desperate. He swore, his voice cracking with a boy's fierce conviction, that he would protect me forever, that he would be my voice for the rest of our lives. Yet, years later, when the most popular girl in our high school framed me for stealing her diamond necklace, I found myself standing in the principal's office, frantically signing, trying to explain my innocence. Cole didn't defend me. He just looked at my trembling hands, his expression a mask of cool indifference. She says, he translated to the room, his voice perfectly level, that she took it. She says she realizes now that she's a thief, and she's willing to apologize to Blair in front of the entire school. 1. I stared at Cole, the air rushing out of my lungs. I waved my hands wildly, a harsh, panic, tearing from my ruined throat. But the principal's face had already hardened into stone. The disappointment radiating from the faculty felt like physical blows to my chest. I reached for a pen, desperate to write the truth, but Cole grabbed my arm and yanked me out into the fluorescent-lit hallway. He shoved me into a corner, his jaw tight with irritation. If you stole it, just own up to it. Making up lies is just going to make everyone look down on you more. But I didn't steal it. I signed, the movements sharp and frantic, tears of absolute frustration threatening to spill over. So what? Blair's lying. Cole sighed, a cruel, mocking edge creeping into his tone. Stella, just because you're disabled doesn't mean the rest of the world has to bend over backward to cater to you. My heart plummeted, hitting the floor of my stomach. The tears finally fell, hot and humiliating. Why? I looked at him, searching for the boy who had held me in the dark. Why don't you believe me? When I walked back into the classroom, numb and hollow, I found my desk had been dragged to the very back of the room, isolated in the corner. I'm not sitting next to a kleptomaniac. I don't want to have to count my cash every time I go to the bathroom. The girl who said it was standing next to Blair. They both looked at me with open, theatrical disgust. The room went dead silent. The whispers that followed were loud enough to be intentional. The mute girl always looked so pathetic. Guess she's got sticky fingers. Honestly, I feel bad for Cole. He's been dragging around that dead weight for years. Well, you know disabled people. They are always a little twisted in the head. Cole was standing in the doorway. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets. His face was a blank canvas. He looked like he hadn't heard a single word. I lowered my head, silently shoving my notebooks into my backpack, and took my new seat in the corner. From that day on, I became a ghost in the hallways. No, worse than a ghost. People ignore ghosts. I was the school thief, the burden, the morally bankrupt mute. People threw crumpled paper at the back of my head. If I sat at a lunch table, the others would stand up and leave. When I raised my hand in class, boys in the back would mockingly wave their hands in fake sign language and snicker. Only Cole would occasionally step in. If someone blatantly tripped me, he'd offer a hand to pull me up. If someone poured chalk dust into my water bottle, he'd frown and mutter, all right, knock it off. But the desperate, heart-wrenching protectiveness was gone from his eyes. All that remained was a heavy, suffocating blanket of obligatory pity, mixed with exhaustion. Whenever he did help me, Blair would magically appear, looping her manicured arm through his. Come on, Cole, let's go. Don't waste your breath on her, she'd coo, and Cole would turn and walk away with her, leaving me kneeling on the linoleum, slowly picking up my scattered textbooks. I thought of the damp, rotting smell of the basement when we were 6. I thought of the kidnapper's belt lashing across Cole's back. He had bitten his lip until it bled, refusing to cry out. I had thrown my tiny body over his, taking the hits, babbling nonsensically, my fingers making wild,